Let's chat.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Larry Keigwin. How's it going?
Oh my God, it's going well. I'm just grateful for sunshine and warmth right now.
Of course. Where are you?
I am in Green Mountain Falls, Colorado.
Nice.
Which is about 30 minutes west of Colorado Springs at 8,000 feet altitude.
Drink your water.
Your water.
Exactly. So thank you so much for chatting with us. What we're trying to do is connect, dance world luminaries to our dance device lab network, and the idea being that we all came from a dance studio somewhere. So why don't you take us through your Larry Keigwin journey? I know it.
Oh my gosh.
People
Everyone knows it by now. No, I'm kidding. So, I kind of grew up in a town that was a blend of rural and suburban, about an hour and a half east of Manhattan on Long Island, a little town called Wading River. And in elementary school, the school's taxes were being supported by a nuclear power plant that was being built. So I actually grew up in a very interesting scenario because the public school kind of operated like a private school, and I had circus training very early on. Instead of going to gym, you could take circus training. So I was doing tightrope and unicycles and all sorts of circus activities, probably at the age of 9 or 8. And this is a long way of saying that dance came late in my life, but I had a physical curiosity early. And then in middle school, I'm popular, that was a bing. Middle school, I got, I should probably turn that off. I started dancing like in high school in musicals, and people started taking notice, like, oh, you can dance. Then someone suggested I go to a recital school, which was in a strip mall, basically, the Vic D'Amore School of Dance. And at the age of around 15 or 16, I started studying dance.
What did you start taking?
The entry.
Yeah.
What's that?
What did you start taking when you went to that school?
The entry was jazz. Like, that was the hook. And then they probably noticed that I was a guy that could dance, and so then they got me in ballet class. And before I knew it, I was going 5 nights a week.
It's really amazing how that snowballs.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think because of several reasons. One is it's a business and they want more of your business. And 2, I think they sense talent very quickly, and we all know there's a dearth of male dancers at that age. So, I think I was studying for maybe a year and a half, and they put me in as like the Prince in Swan Lake doing all the contours. It was a red hot enough.
Right, that's amazing. I want to see that tape.
So do I.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I was wearing a dance belt, to be honest. It was just...
Then maybe I don't want to see it.
It's tragic. And then at the same time, my high school offered from Long Island Martha Graham technique class instead of gym.
Wow.
They called it modern dance, but it was a very simple floor exercise like a Graham technique. So I started taking modern dance probably around 16 too. The thing about the recital school was that it was all geared towards competition.
Right.
And I was entering competitions way too early because I didn't have the muscle memory to remember combinations.
Would you just freak out in improv on stage, or?
No, I had like total deer in the headlights.
So this isn't where the dance attack came from.
No, not yet. I always had that. But anyway, I was very curious physically, and it was a great outlet. My mother drove me dance classes all the time.
So sweet.
And then I majored in dance at school at Hofstra University, and that's kind of where the modern dance really hit home for me.
You know, I didn't take a modern class until like day one at Juilliard. Like, I just did not. I did the competition thing. I didn't even know that existed, you know, so that's so... it's still really relevant that like that exists, you know? So like, you know, but I do think the thing that has changed from the time that I was in high school is, you know, the internet. You know, now you can just Google, you can do a half-hour search later and you can stumble across that Justin Peck video. And if I had that when I was a kid, you know, my fork in the road with, you know, concert dance came like much later. And I feel like now that's starting sooner because people have access to it at a young age. And so you sort of had an interesting career as a performer, but as a choreographer as well. You know, you've had Keigwin and Company for so long. You've choreographed operas. You've choreographed Broadway shows. I mean, you've done it. You're doing it. Like, so
I'm living it.
You're living it. Can you sort of talk about like the differences between having your own company where you produce your own work and then sort of working for a show where you have to you're more part of like a large collaboration with a director and a music director, and sort of being the different elements of the way you work, I think, is interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm always collaborating, which is sort of the common denominator, is there's always collaboration. And in my work, the collaboration is with, in the company's setting, is with people that I've chosen, right? Or people that I vibe with. When you're a choreographer for hire, your collaborations are with many different artists or people you didn't necessarily hire. But it's all, I hope that the same creative process is played out, that I'm exercising the same sort of process, but it just changes by who's in the room.
Right.
And then what purpose are you serving? Like, so in musical theater, you're serving the purpose of the story or the character or the music. But when you're working in your own company, you're serving the purpose of a blank canvas of like whatever artistry comes out at that moment from your body or the dancer's body. Totally. So I feel like sometimes there's a tremendous freedom in company work, but it's also can be very scary because you don't have a perimeter, you know, and there's no border controlling anything.
Right.
I've really enjoyed all of it. I've enjoyed all of it. There have been tremendous moments when I'm collaborating, you know, as a for-hire choreographer, and there's been tremendous moments when it's my own company work. I feel like there is really no rhyme or reason of what becomes successful.
Yeah, that's very true. And something that I learned from working from you for so long is the idea of trust in sort of a dancer or a student or a performer. You often work in a way that it is collaborative, wherein, you know, I was, you know, dancing for you, that you would give us tasks and you would trust us to create something, but even like spontaneous decisions between your company work and your outside work, I've seen you like anyone that's in front of the room, you can just like let them do it and trust that it will happen and trust that something will generate. And that is often a tipping point for you, you know, like,
yeah.
And I thought that was just like such an interesting way of working where it's like, you don't prescribe everything. You can see something and then riff off it, which is like such a skill you have.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times I'm just looking for inspiration, and I'm looking for the thing that's going to hook me into a dance. And also it's not my job to prejudge. I think it's my job is to motivate and get people doing and creating and making. And regardless of what they're making, what I ultimately trust is my eye, that I'm going to trust what I'm going to pick of what you are making, right? So I'm an editor, right? And there's no harm in just generating, because ultimately I'm going to edit what I like.
Totally. I mean, and it is like a visual art form, and it is nice to sort of have that sort of like diverse pool of things to pull from. I think it pushes the artist you're working with, and it pushes you as a choreographer, because if you generate everything all the time, it all starts to look exactly the same.
Yes.
So it's like endless inspiration. Yeah. In terms of inspiration, where do you draw your creative practices from? I know we just talked about the people in the room, but do you use outside sources? Do you listen to music? I know you love art. Like, where does all that come from?
Yeah, I think to put it in one word is curiosity.
That's good.
And also curiosity and being interested in other things outside of dance is what I usually say to this answer. This question. But there's also the ingredient of deadlines. Sometimes you just have to make decisions, whether or not they're inspired or not, just because you have to keep moving forward. And if you delay making one decision, you're delaying all the other decisions and inspiration that might come after that, right?
Totally.
So there's no pressure in making the wrong decision, because it's just a means to get to the next one.
Right. In terms of like decision making in your creative process,
I think a lot.
No.
Sorry.
No, go. No, we want.
Just to maybe backtrack and answer that question a little fuller. The inspiration comes in the most random moments, or like I was making a dance for Marymount, and I'd recently been to India, and I thought, well, the costume's going to be all the colors I just saw in India.
That's incredible.
Yellow, pink, orange, right? And so I go down that path until I don't like it anymore.
It's interesting because I feel like you can follow your work and see each dance as sort of its own little niche, It's like if you look at Megalopolis or something, you're just like, no, you are like all in with that. Or if you look at Runaway, and it's just like, I find that so interesting about your process, and you do such a great job of something that you think about is, I think because you draw inspiration from so many places, the whole stage template. It's not just what moves am I making. It's like you really think about lighting and costumes, and that adds a lot of dynamic.
I'm always looking for glue, and I'm always and I'm looking for a world. Mm-hmm. And when I'm editing, what I'm really editing is, does this belong in this world, or doesn't it belong in this world?
Totally.
And so I'm always just trying to, it's filing. I think a large part of being a choreographer is being an organizer. Mm-hmm. Someone who enjoys organizing, organizing people, organizing steps, organizing music, organizing costumes. It's a lot about making and creative organization.
No, it's interesting to sort of, having worked administratively with you, to sort of understand the entire puzzle piece of what goes into like just making a dance. It's similar to, if you think about running a dance studio, people often think of dance teachers as just teaching someone tap, but like, no, you're a business owner, you're an entrepreneur, it's real. There's a lot of things involved with it.
It's very real. I've taught at little schools all over the country, and I'm always amazed, and I feel in ways I feel less than, like that they're doing something so much bigger, like it really is a business when I walk into a dance studio in the middle of the country.
Totally.
And it's education, right? So my dance company is not necessarily education centric. We do it and we enjoy it, but it's not the main goal.
Right. What was your sort of relationship to the period from when you were sort of, I know you're actively performing now, but that time of when you were like, full-time dancer transitioning into more sort of choreographer, leader of the room, like how did that feel for you? Did that change your ideas of dance or anything?
I feel like it was pretty gradual. I felt like there are natural born leaders, and even when I was working with you in the studio at Juilliard, I saw the people rise up. The people who were keeping the count, the people who had opinions, the people who had their own vision.
Totally.
It's always percolating. Mm-hmm. It's not it's not one day you become a choreographer, but I was assisting choreographers. They trusted my movement invention.
Mm-hmm.
They saw that I could get along with other dancers, so then I became assistants. And before I knew it, I was conducting rehearsals with the Rockettes. I was probably 27 at the time. And it's building blocks. Every day is a step towards the next day of your leadership. And I just finished this Juilliard bolero, making a bolero with the whole student body of Juilliard, or a lot of them. And it was my first time really directing.
Mm-hmm.
And I kept thinking, gosh, I'm 48, and everything I've done in my career has led to this exact moment.
Totally.
I'm only prepared because of every other step that's taken. And I couldn't have done this project literally a year ago or 2 years ago. If you're a student, a young student, I would say follow the path of wherever your interest is.
Mm-hmm.
If that's sewing a costume, go there. If that's, being the keeper of the count, or whatever it is, I think you just find your authentic interest and plow towards that and express it. You can have an interest, but you may not express it vocally, not even just vocally, physically, like do it.
Right.
People are always watching, and I may not be answering this question, but I think some part of the opportunities that come up in life for you or for me or for anybody is this, and I'm going to make it into a business, but supply and demand. Mm-hmm. There was a demand that I have to have someone go out and make it and set one of my dances, and so I need to supply that, right? So there's just a simple equation. It's just like, there's a demand, I need someone to do it. I think of who shows responsibility, who shows up, who gets along, who, basically your word trust. I have to provide opportunity to people I trust,
right,
because it's representing me, really. And one thing leads to the next, but I'm just trying to think how else to provide opportunity for yourself as a student.
That makes total sense. And then, there's this idea that, when I was certainly younger, I was so focused on the aesthetics of it. I wanted the lines, I wanted the feet. And now as I get older, I've touched in so many different mediums of dance. And there are so many people that, we're younger dancers that have fallen into different tracks in the art field. You think of like arts administrators. You mentioned like, if you have an interest in sewing, go sew. Maybe that will lead you to be like a brilliant costume designer. That keeping dance alive with you for, the longevity is so important, I think, to our mission. And I think to the greater good. And you don't really access that until college or after, that there are so many different mediums and ways to be involved in dance that's not even on the stage that, are super vital.
And the more that you can harness all of your assets, not that you're just the fiercest dancer with the highest extension, but you're the fiercest dancer with the highest extension who knows how to operate QuickBooks.
Totally.
Whatever your assets are, lay them on the table, because you're going to become more valuable and more of an asset that people need and can't let go of.
Yeah. There's something about like being like a good, a nice, and like interesting person that is so important to a creative process that I didn't know. I mean, I didn't really know that until I got older, and then you learn.
Yeah. Yeah. I always try telling people that, one, because I want them to be nice in my process, but also it's just true. Like, you go to an audition. I've been binge watching Chorus Line too, by the way.
Oh my God.
And the thing that people say once the audition door closes is, how is that person to work with?
If you could give little Larry Keigwin one word of advice, what would it be?
I would say to trust yourself, to keep that theme going, and also should trust my confidence, and to have self-care throughout.
That's great advice.
My mother sometimes says, if I've gotten a great review, great. If I've gotten a bad review, fine. But not to put weight in either of those categories. Like, to not get ecstatic when something good happens because, you know, it's like a seesaw. You want to keep it balanced. You don't want to put weight there. And it does, in the long run, it doesn't matter. What matters is your life balance and your health and your family and your well-being. I mean, none of the success and the fame and the, not that I'm Lady Gaga, but it doesn't matter.
Right.
Those things don't matter in the long run.
Right. That's very great advice, and so true, and so important to sort of always have that as a mantra and always remember. Well, thank you so much for chatting.
Yes, of course.
Appreciate it. Thank you for sharing all your valuable insight, and we look forward to connecting with you in the future.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
All right.
Okay,
Bye.
wait. Okay.
Thanks, Brandon.
Thanks.
You well. Bye.